In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a front CV axle on your Nissan Altima. As a disclaimer on this job, you will need an alignment once you are done. Remove your 5 21mm lug nuts. Remove the wheel. Remove the cotter pin using a pair of pliers. Remove your 32mm axle nut. We're going to remove the brake hose holding shim. I'm going to use a pair of pliers. Remove that. Pull the brake hose out. Then we're going to remove the ABS sensor harness from the strut assembly. And just leave that to the side. Using a 21mm wrench and 21mm socket, we are going to remove the 2 strut to knuckle bolts. Do the same on the bottom. Make sure you leave 1 bolt in, if not, the knuckle can just fall at you. We're going to drop the knuckle forward, remove the bolt. You may need to use a flat blade screwdriver or a pry bar to get the knuckle to come forward. Once it's out, don't pull it fully forward. You do not want the axle coming apart in the boots. Push the axle through as you pull the knuckle forward. And just leave it on the side. You can just leave this hanging like this as long as none of these hoses or wires have any tension on them. Using a pry bar, we're going to go behind the axle and we're going to give it a nice little pop, and the axle should just pop out. Like that. Make sure you have a drip tray under. You may leak gear fluid or transmission fluid. Remove the CV axle. You might have to give it a little bit of a tug. Install the new axle shaft. Line the splines up. You may have to give it a little tap with a hammer, or you can just give it a nice slight push in. Make sure the axle fully seats into the transmission. Line the front splines up with the splines in the wheel hub. Line up the knuckle with the strut. And insert a bolt to hold the knuckle in place. Install the lower strut bolt. Install the 2 nuts. And snug them down. Torque the strut bolts to 105 foot-pounds. Do the same on the bottom. Install the brake hose locking tab. You can tap it with a hammer into place. Install the ABS sensor wire back onto the strut assembly. Put your axle nut back on. We're going to snug that down. Snug it down using a 32mm socket. Using a pry bar to hold the studs. or putting the car on the ground, hold the wheel and torque the axle nut to 129 foot-pounds. Using the hardware that came with the new axle, install this locking ring in a position that you can fit the cotter pin in. And then bend the cotter pin up over the axle. I'm just going to snip this part off. Install the wheel. The hubcap is held on by the lug nuts. Make sure the hubcap is on before you install your lug nuts. Install your 5 21mm lug nuts. Tighten them down in a star pattern. And once the car is on the ground, we will torque them to 100 foot-pounds. If any of them feel loose in that second pass, go ahead and go around again. If not, when removing the CV axle, if you had transmission fluid leak out, it's a good idea to check your fluid level. There is a dipstick in the engine bay. Using a little pick tool, we're going to push on the tab and pull the dipstick out. And this is how you can check the fluid level. Your fluid level should be in between these two marks. After checking your transmission fluid, go ahead and reinstall the dipstick. It only goes on one way. Push it down, pull it back up, make sure it can't pull back out.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.